was the vision of what we pitched been a reality?
To be a young producer, you just kind of have to put your head down and grind. It is a grind early on, for sure.
Trial by fire and failure is the best way.
It's sad because insurance by a lot of people is looked at as a scam in some scenarios.
The reason, though, is because a lot of bad agents.
Yes.
And I think
absolutely.
a lot of people have scar tissue from a lot
it's a bad
of
taste
bad
in their
agents.
mouth. To be a part of it from like the ground up is so cool. The opportunities are endless and there's not really a ceiling.
Yeah, dude, let's go. Welcome to another episode of the Risky Assets podcast. This is my favorite 6'4" employee, Jesse Hanckel. Jess, thanks for being on the podcast
Thank
today,
you for
man.
having me.
This is a unique episode for us because you're employed by Greyhawk,
Yep.
which is a fun thing to say. And I just wanted to introduce everybody to you and kind of give some background on like who you are and how you came to be at Greyhawk and all that stuff. So like general background on you, like tell us some history.
Yeah, so grew up in the West Side, Santa Monica, moved out to the Valley for high school, and then went to Azusa Pacific for college.
High school,
Yeah.
Village Christian. We went to the same high school.
We did, yeah.
We didn't go to school together.
No, we did not, but I went to school with your younger brother, Wesley, who's
so
to this day one of my best friends, and he works for Greyhawk as well, so that makes it a very fun atmosphere.
It's a good time.
Office,
it's a good time. So college, you did play football.
Played football and, was on the baseball team.
Yeah, that's right.
Ended up tearing my UCL, had to get Tommy John, so just stuck it out with football.
You had a funny road, though. So you went from Fresno.
Yeah, I went on like a carousel of colleges just because I was chasing football, trying to make it wherever I could play. So I went to Fresno State right out of high school. Was there.
Were you back up to?
I was like fifth string. So as a freshman walk-on, it's a little tough.
And it was the Derek Carr, right, at the time?
Derek Carr had just graduated. He had just won the Mountain
it.
West. So we were riding the coattails of that.
Yeah.
And it was just a tough atmosphere, tough coaches to be around. Didn't see myself enjoying it for the next 4 years. So started bouncing around, went to community colleges, and then found my way to APU where I was on football and baseball scholarship.
Sure. Wow, that's great. And then you met your wife there, right?
I did. At the end of our first year, we both transferred in the same year, and then we met at the end of our first year there.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So you get through college. What was it, by the way, I actually don't know. What was your degree in?
It was business administration.
So just so you know, with Greyhawk, we don't care. Like, I remember I was like, wait, what did he get his degree in?
We have people that don't even have a degree.
Yeah, I mean,
so
it's just not important to me. I could care less. Okay, so you got your degree. And then from there, that's kind of where we connected loosely on the thought of like, what do we do next? Because you were working where
I was
between?
So I was finishing up school online and then working at a country club.
That's what it was.
And then you had mentioned it a few times. We'd gone golfing, and you're like, "Hey, man, insurance is a great industry." I was just like, I knew nothing about it. I wasn't even handling my own insurance at the time, and so it was kind of out of sight, out of mind. And then, when I was in my last semester for school, getting my degree, and I was in the process, I think I was engaged to Danielle. I'm like, I need to figure out what I'm going to do. Like, I'm about to marry this woman and have to provide for her. And
isn't it funny once you get into that state, you're like, oh, I got to do something.
Yeah.
I felt the same way when I was younger. You know, it's like I was 20 years old, married. I was like, I got to do something better than what I'm doing.
Totally.
Yeah, it's a good thing.
So that was the boat I was in. And I was actually pursuing getting my real estate license. I was taking the courses, was about to take the test. And then I think Wesley hit me up and he's like, hey, man, Charlie's going to give you a call. I'm like, okay, about what? He's like, about Greyhawk, about insurance. Because I had known, Wesley had told me that you had started your own agency. And so I was like, okay. And so you gave me a call. You're like, hey, come check out the office. We want to just chat with you. And we had, I think, 2 or 3 conversations. I got to meet Daniel, which was awesome. And then, you guys kind of laid out the idea of what a producer would look like. And long story short.
Selling the dream, man. I was selling the dream big time. So from that point, though, so we talked about like, all right, so that's your history. You don't really have anything to compare insurance to because, I mean, it was country club as a job,
school,
and that's it, right? So I guess, was the vision of what we pitched back then, has that kind of come to fruition? Has that been a reality, or has it been different than what you thought it would be?
I think comparing it to, at the time, what I was pursuing, which was real estate, and then comparing it to insurance, the idea of having clients that renew as opposed to constantly going out getting new, because you're not gonna have a client that's buying 10 houses every single, like one a year kind of thing.
Exactly.
And so the idea of having renewal business and then building upon that just was really ideal. And obviously I've seen that being here a year and a half play out, and so it's been really nice.
It's the best part about the business.
Yeah.
Also, I did your commission statement yesterday. Big boy statement,
Daniel
dude.
came up to me,
dude, let's go.
He's like, he came up, he's rubbing my shoulders. He's like, check your commission. I'm like, if you're here, I feel like it's a good thing.
Yeah, so I mean, that's the business, man. It just keeps building on itself, and it's such a gold mine. You just have to understand it and see the bigger picture too. Because sometimes the real estate commission of like, oh, I can make 30 grand at one time, like clouds the judgment, and then you give up all your Saturdays and Sundays.
Yep.
So anyway, has anything surprised you about the industry as far as like, hey, I didn't expect this, or this is like, hey, this is really cool. This is even better than I thought it would be?
I think early on, the first 6 months were really tough because you're selling something that you're not too sure what it is. And so I just passed my license exam and just kind of thrown into the wolves. And that's just part of the nature.
Life.
Like there's no other way to do it. And so, yeah, I would say the first 6 months were really tough just because I was brand new to sales, brand new to insurance. I'm pitching something I'm not confident in the understanding of it.
Sure.
And so like, clients would ask me questions that I'm meeting with, and I'll be like, I'll get back to you. Like, I'll let you know. Or like wing it. And I'll be like, oh yeah, like this covers this covers this. Like more broad statements, and then like go do my homework like when I'm done with the conversation, and then bring it up later in topic or whatever.
Trial by fire and failure is the best way.
Totally.
There's just no
There's
other.
a lot of failure.
There's a lot of failure. I mean, look, I always talk about baseball, right? Like, and you understand baseball. If you strike out 7 times, but you hit 3 good ones in play and you get on base, you're
considered great.
You're considered great. They don't care. Like, it's just it's about how, those small successes that really define you. So I think that's great. Was there a time was the self-doubt during that time? I remember my first year, the self-doubt was overwhelming. I don't know if that was an insecurity on my part or if that was just the nature of the beast. Did you have that, like, am I cut out for this? Is this going to work?
Totally. Within those 6 months, I'm like, dang, like this is tough. Like Charlie, and then also seeing like the referrals that you're getting, the phone calls you're getting, I'm like, well, dang, he's doing really well. Daniel's doing really well. And I have nothing. Like I'm just cold calling constantly and not having any luck within like the first 6 months, or like just
it takes
bits
a while.
and pieces.
Yeah.
So yeah, there was definitely self-doubt. I think having you and Daniel was instrumental. You guys gave so much grace, so much direction to where I was going, and just like the teaching aspect. You guys both bring such unique perspectives of insurance. Daniel is very personable and building relationships, and obviously you are too. Yeah. But you're also product motivated. Like you're put your foot to the metal and get it done kind of thing.
I can be a lot more cutthroat, which
exactly.
That's
and
why
I think that's
being,
for my personality, that's super helpful in just motivation.
Right.
And so, yeah, I think the first 6 months, definitely self-doubt. But then, yeah, it was around the 6 month mark where things started to pick up and I just had a better understanding of what I was selling. And yeah, it's been really great since that.
Yeah, and it's good. You could see it too, like even now for being from afar, right? Because I've never like managed an organization previous to this. Like I was trial by fire on my end too. It was cool to see it at a certain point too, because the questions almost stopped. Yeah. Right. And I was like, where do you go? And I think we had a conversation in my office. I'm like, do you need me?
Are you good?
Yeah. Like, well, do you need me to be like in your grill every week? Because I was like, what do you need from me?
Yeah, before you were.
Yeah, I was.
Which I needed. Right. But then there's a certain point where it's just like, hey, like.
No, I just felt like I was inconveniencing you at a certain point, It was just like slowing you down. So it was cool to see it on my end. And then what did you feel like after that change? Was it, okay, I can at least cut this, like I can do this, I'm cut out for it, or was it like I can see this long term? Yeah. Like what's the thought moving after that little valley, so to speak?
Yeah, so I mean, you had mentioned it. You're like, you're going to know pretty quickly if you're cut out for this. And so, yeah, I would say like it takes about a year, at least for me personally. It took about a year to be like, no, like I can do this, and like picturing future and building my book of business and the possibilities within Greyhawk that you and Daniel and now Justin have laid out for us is just something that I really look forward to, and building with Greyhawk is just, the opportunities are endless, and the ceiling, there's not really a ceiling, which is really in my benefit.
Yeah, and I don't know, I think it's a benefit, right? I was a producer for 9 years, and I'm pitching this dream to guys like you now all over, right? I'm just, and you see it, like we're interviewing all the time. We're just pitching the dream. I'm giving this like, hey, you can own with Greyhawk.
Totally.
I almost feel like sometimes I'm like, man, is this to our detriment that we're doing this? But then I'm like, it's exciting.
Yeah.
It provides that opportunity that I never had, that I wish I did previously.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like, I used 9 years of my life, not that I didn't get anywhere, but it didn't have that ownership aspect that's really important.
There was a ceiling.
There was a ceiling.
Yeah.
And so it's fun at the same time, because I can almost imagine 10 owners and just like offices everywhere.
Sure. And
that, millions upon millions.
For me personally, that's a goal I have, is eventually building my book of business big enough to where I have producers and account managers in an office of my own.
That's the goal, right? Yeah. And I pitched that to Roger, who we just hired. I'm like, hey, do your thing, Pasadena office. We'll make it big. You got to get to this number, right? Which is the same message, and it's fair. It's just such an exciting thing overall. Yeah. From there, we talk about like, okay, you come out of it, you're doing really well now. You have a lot of momentum. Yeah. What's the most exciting part of the job for you right now?
I mean, within the job itself is just constantly meeting with people and the opportunities that we're coming up on, and that's referrals that are coming into the office, but then also referrals that I'm starting to get from past clients that I've had, which is really rewarding.
Those feel good.
It's incredible. Yeah. And so, because I'm so used to cold calling, door knocking, those are obviously cold leads, and then to have a warm lead of somebody that can testify to my work and
that actually wants to listen to your voice.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's very different. Yeah.
So that's really exciting. And then just what we just touched on is the ability to grow within this company. I think Danielle and I are just really excited to be a part of it, and to be a part of it from like the ground up is so cool. And just seeing what you, Daniel, and now Justin are doing, and how fast we're growing, it's really fun to be a part of.
Yeah, we were doing some numbers, and like we might be at 30 people by the end of the year.
You're kidding?
No, I mean, like we have all the work for it, so it's like, it's exciting. Totally. It's fun to be a part of it. Even as an owner, I'm like, dude, this is cool. You know, like it's fun to ride the wave.
Yeah.
So flip side, challenges change. Like I remember my first couple of years compared to my middle years, I would say like 3 to 6, and then 6 to 9, so to speak. Like those years all had very different challenges.
Sure.
What do you feel like your challenges are now in the industry as a producer?
Yeah, I think maybe 6 months ago, it was just being okay with rejection, because it's just part of being a producer, and failure and all that jazz. But then it makes the success and the wins so much sweeter. I think now challenges would be just like dealing with claims, honestly. Like no one wants to go through a claim, whether it's a accident or something happened to their business. They're upset and at a loss right now, and so just trying to make them whole. That's a new atmosphere for me to be in, because obviously I've just been selling, but now it's like, hey, we're putting
human nature comes
the
through there, because something bad's happened, money's on the line. Like I always saw it, and I figured out pretty quick that adjusters are not the most friendly people to talk to, and they put the fear of God in you, because they're like, well, I don't know if this is covered, and you're like, whoa. Now their job is to go back and look at the contract and make sure it's there. So, but their reassurance of if it's going to be covered, not good.
Is not there.
And then they call you going, what the heck, man? And you're like, whoa,
totally.
Take a second, you know. But that is a learned skill. That's not really the insurance part that you're used to selling. That's like the service end of the backside, so to speak.
Which is all a part of it. It's a massive part of it.
It's a massive part of it. Well, we talk about selling to the claim, right? We won't sell policies, guys, that just aren't good. We're like, no, this is eventually going to bite you in the butt. We won't even sell it. We'll let some other clown deal with it and expose themselves to E&O claims. The stress, too. I've never gone through it. But I can only imagine the stress of like, this isn't covered.
Totally.
I've never had it.
Yeah.
Right? So 10 years, I've never had it, you know, and it's not my thing. So I preach that to you guys all the time. It's like, no, we sell good coverages.
Totally.
And if they don't like it, we're just not the right client.
Totally.
It's just not, it doesn't work for us. And over the long run, you'll see benefit, right? You'll see it now. Like if a claim gets covered and you're like,
yes,
hey, I look good, you know?
Because people hate paying for insurance, but when they need it, it's their best friend.
It's exactly right. Yeah. You talked about you and Danielle being excited for it. Like, What's the long-term plan for the both of you with this?
So Danielle is a high school counselor and does the ASB, like she's an ASB director, so student body president and all that. Very busy, but she loves it. And she was made to help kids and like move them on to college and everything. And as far as our future goes, yeah, she's super excited. She does get a little, I would say, frustrated with how much golf I play. And it comes with the industry. Like there's a lot of freedom to play golf and go out on the golf course and meet with clients, which is really fun.
That's work, by the way.
It's
part of the job.
So when we just went on a camping trip, I had told you, and we were gonna leave around like 2:00. And the day before, her boss, who's the head of schools for her high school, hits me up and is like, "Hey, do you want to go play Lakeside?" And I'm like,
"You don't say no to Lakeside, by the way."
You don't say no to Tom Conjoin. He's the head of schools. And then two, you don't say no to Lakeside.
You don't say no to Lakeside.
And so we talked about it for a sec, and I'm like, "This is a big opportunity." Yeah. And I'm gonna go. And she really encouraged me. She texted me. She's like, "No, say yes." And I'm like, "Thank you for giving me the okay."
So Nicole, my wife Nicole, had a hard time early on figuring out like, why are you screwing around so much?
Sure. And that's what they view it as.
Which again, it is a little bit, of course, but like it's also a relationship building thing. It's really an important part of what we do. Mm-hmm. Also, post-COVID now, the amount of golf tournaments that like are held for tournaments and charity and all that have gone down.
Really?
Before it was like every other week an insurance company or like it was just golf. So it's slowed down since then. Okay. It's still slowly picking up. Yeah. But dude, we'd be at golf tournaments, constantly rubbing elbows with important people. And like it was an important part of our job. Yep. And it's like, would you rather come into my office or would you rather go to golf to meet me? Like it's golf. Yep. So yeah, I can kind of relate to that. It eventually goes away and it's part of life. Yeah. But now I'm a country club member, so it's like I'm golfing a lot. But again, I'm always with somebody. Yeah. I'm trying to rub elbows with
and there's
people.
so many people to meet at a country club on the golf course. So yeah, totally agree.
That's funny. Mm-hmm. So then we cleared those challenges. You feel like you're doing well. What do you see next as like your big like milestone for you that you're working towards?
Yeah, I would say getting to 150,000 and premium for the company would definitely be a goal of mine. Obviously, we have our quotas that we talk about for end of the year, but that's probably one of the bigger ones for me. And so I think I can get to that relatively quickly, and then from there it's to the next milestone. I think as far as building my book of business, I just want to make sure that I'm somebody that people can trust, and then also just come to. I mean, I look at the resource you offer your clients, and you can answer so many questions, and you have such a vast knowledge of insurance, whether it's life, whether it's commercial, whether it's personal. And so being an asset for somebody like that is just instrumental for their company to have a resource like that. And so I want to be able to be a person like that, be an agent for somebody like that, to where they can ask a lot of questions. I'm not there yet, but obviously throughout the next couple years, that's a goal of mine to
so get even to. Myself, this is like by year 5, I mean, it took 5 years to work, and I was fairly obsessive. I think like a lot of people see that I have a fairly obsessive personality, so like I would just read and read and read. By year 5, I was like, okay, like I think I got a hold of a lot of stuff. Yeah. So you guys, especially now that you have a lot of people that are doing it as well, it's easy to be able to build that confidence, I would say, quicker. I would think by year 3, you're just going to be like, it's all there. Sure. You should be able to just blaze a trail. Sure. You're going to be able to stand in front of anybody with no prep and just do it. At this point, I don't prep. Yeah. I just like, just know. I just have it, right? But that was from years and years of doing all that stuff. Totally. We talked a little bit about like lifestyle. I pitched lifestyle like crazy. Yeah. What was that like originally? And then like, what's the part that you enjoy outside of golf, right? Because, well, you did go to John Kang's, golf event. Yeah. I know that was golf related, but that was just to support a buddy. That was just to support him. Yeah, and the freedom to do that. Like, we have a lot of freedom. So talk about that. Yeah, so I think starting out as a producer, in my personal experience, was one, I was learning. So I was in the office all day long, and then asking you questions, asking Daniel questions, and I would say that was the case for probably the first 6 months, going back to that point again.
But then after that, once you start bringing in clients and bringing in business, like that gave you and Daniel the confidence to give me more leeway of like, hey, like he's producing and we're going to loosen the leash a little bit, which I appreciated. And I think it also just allowed me to grow and feel confident in my ability to produce. And so, and then since then, it's been even more. And Daniel continues to preach. He's like, your schedule is your own. Like, as long as you're producing, in whatever capacity that is, like your schedule is your own. And so I'm able, like we've talked about, if I know I'm going on a trip, like a 3-day weekend, or even like leaving late Thursday, as long as I'm getting my work done, staying a little bit extra on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and getting my work done, it's totally fine. And so the freedom to do that, Danielle definitely appreciates it, because she's an 11-month employee and gets a whole month off. So the freedom to do that is really great.
You'll see too with kids, once you amplify that with like more people that pull for your time, like how much of a benefit that is to just be like, I'm going. Right. And you guys see emails from me late at night. I put kids to bed and then I just keep going. Like it's just how I've set my life up to be like, all right, I work whenever I want. And then I golf Fridays. Like I screw around a little bit that day. So it's a benefit to you, which I think is great.
For Danielle, a big pet peeve she has is she doesn't like people being on their phones quite often. And I work from my phone. So we've had many conversations about that, to where I'm like, I might have to answer either a phone call or an email late at night. And it might be during like our time together, like whether we're watching a movie or whatever, like we're out somewhere, like I might just have to answer it. And so for her, it's a learning experience. And the fact that if I answer that call or I answer that email, it might give me business and benefit our family. Like it's an understanding that she's starting to get on board with it, but it's just tough. It is tough.
It's very different. So Nicole had the same struggle. Again, all of our parents came from some sort of government job where it's like it's shut off at 3:30, 4 o'clock, and you could just go home. Right. And so even her parents, same way. It's like it ended, the job ended, and it doesn't end for us. I would be emailing at night at 11, 12, and she's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm impressing people right now by emailing at 11, 11:30, you know, but like for the first 7 years, I would say, of my career, the email didn't sit unread and answered for longer than 45 minutes. I was just always on it. Unless I was like no reception or asleep or whatever, I was always on. Now I take a little bit longer just because of the sheer amount of volume I have, but like I'm always getting to my emails as fast as possible. And you see I'm sure you've seen the benefit of it. People think the service is amazing when it's
I
like
wanted
that.
a client because of how quickly I responded. So
it's a part of the game. 90% of any service industry is how fast you can respond. So yeah, that's really fascinating. It's again, you've grown a lot in a lot of that stuff too. Talk about, I mean, sports. This is always the part that I think, as an athlete, you know, a failed one, so to speak. You know, I was always getting hurt, so I gave it up. But does any of that stuff apply? So like, I know I struggled with my schedule being given to me as an athlete. It's like you're just here in the morning, you lift at 6 in the morning, and then like here's your schedule. Do as you please as an adult. How was that transition for you?
Yeah, I mean, my whole life I played sports. And so speaking to the schedule, I've always had a strict schedule, meet at the field, get your weights in the morning kind of thing. And so the transition, I mean, I enjoy it. I enjoy being a retired athlete. It's pretty nice. I've obviously put on a little bit of weight since then, but shoot, I'm okay with that because I lived my whole life as an athlete. And so the schedule aspect is just really nice. It's to have it. Like, I mean, we obviously just talked about it, but just to have it be what I make it is really great. And then I can change things. If things are not working in my work because of the schedule, I can change it. And so the freedom to do that is incredible.
Yeah, it is incredible. It's a great part of the business. Anything caught you off guard about the industry in general? So like not Greyhawk, but like has there been something in the industry where you're like, wow, that surprised me? I have my own examples when I first started, but like, so for instance, I was amazed, and this is rude, it's harsh, but my pet line was, how does that person make more money than me? If they can do that, I can do that. I was surprised by the lack of talent. And then I was also surprised that like insurance companies are brutal. They can be absolutely brutal, which is why I always load up coverage, because I'm like, you can't be brutal if all the coverages are on there.
Exactly.
So for you, like, what surprised you about the industry that you've been learning?
I think with all the different clients you can possibly have, like there so many, obviously people are just unique in their own nature, but then just trying to balance or cater to different clientele. Like some people are just a little finicky and they're just always questions, and like that's good. I respect that they're doing their homework, but there is a point to where it's a little too much, and they're just, that's their personality kind of thing.
Totally. Yeah. The reason though is because a lot of bad agents.
Yes.
And I think a lot of people have scar tissue from a lot of bad agents. It's a bad taste. So I try and come with it as a lens of like, hey, did you have someone, like I'll say it, did you have someone that kind of messed up your insurance?
Yeah, sure enough.
Almost always it's a yes. And it's like, it's coming out to us, and then it's our job to kind of unwind it, right? So yeah, I get that part. Really positive sides. I know that's more of like a negative. Positive side about the industry.
Yeah, I mean, obviously providing insurance when there's a big claim that happens, and being a resource, or being that person that comes along and like makes that person whole, is just a really rewarding aspect of the job, an experience that I've had with a couple clients now, and just their gratitude to,
of course,
to us, and then to the carrier. Like I said, people hate insurance until they need it, and then it's their best friend. And so seeing it actually pay off is really rewarding, and a great experience. I think with an HVAC company that I had, I was a part of a networking group, and they were in it, and I was just dripping. Like I was, what is it called? Is it dripping?
Yes, dripping.
That might sound a little weird. Yeah, just constantly, like once a month, just checking in. Like we were very personable, like friendly with each other. And I had met with them a couple of times. It was a wife and husband duo that owned this business, and they were with their broker, had been with their broker for years. And being a producer, and being in the same networking group, I'm like, hey, like, give me a shot. Like, let me look at your policies. Let me see if you're properly covered. If you are, I'll leave you alone. Like, I'm not going to touch it. And they were just so adamant about the relationship that they had with their broker. And so I think I had given it one more shot. I'm like, you're coming up on renewal. Like, just let me take a look. And they're like, we're going to give our broker, he's messed up a couple of times, we're going to give him one more shot. I'm like, all right, like that's a recipe for disaster. But the wife, her dad had passed, and she had announced it to the networking group. And I kind of like set aside all of the business aspect of it and just checked in with her, because Danielle had lost her mom, so I've experienced the loss of a parent. And it's excruciating. She's this woman is the oldest of, I think, 7 children, and so it's just really hard to lose a parent. And so I put business aside and really just checked in on her probably once a week, just to see how she was doing, see how her and her husband as well were doing. And I think that kind of opened the gate a little bit from the business. I wasn't doing it for business advantage. I was truly wanting to care for her. And then 2 weeks later, she hits me up and she's like, hey, I'm done with my broker. Like, let's switch everything over. And we were able to help her with insurance as well, saving her some money. So
it's a big benefit to us. And like, I talk about my social media being real, because people should see that you're real. Like the business is a benefit to that, but
we don't want to be a robot.
No, we don't want to be a robot, and we also don't want to be like some scummy, car salesman who's just trying to sling stuff at you all the time. Like there's a balance, but yeah, I mean that's a really great point you brought up. We'll transition a little bit as far as dynamic in the office. With a merger, it's changed a little bit just because now there's more people. Like, how has that been for you? I know we have a good group of people, and it's a lot of fun.
I don't know how about the Westlake is. I haven't been there a whole lot. But no, the Santa Clarita office is super fun. Like I mentioned with Wesley, who's one of my best friends working there, and then Seth, one of our account managers. It's just a fun atmosphere. We get our work done, but we also have fun while we do it. And now adding Roger to the office, he's a lot of fun. I've only known him for a little bit.
Roger's a big ball of energy, man. It's
really
great.
Is.
Yeah. And so, Austin and Washington, which I know isn't in our office, but like such
Zoom
good
calls
people.
With him. He's incredible.
Yeah.
And so, I think that for Greyhawk is one of the biggest perks, is the culture that comes with the business atmosphere. Is like none other that I've experienced.
You know, bringing Justin on too. We obviously spent a lot of time with him golfing in Palm Springs, like an absolute ball of positive energy.
Justin.
It's so much fun. Matt Brooks, who's a newer producer to us from the Westlake, he's great. A lot of the Westlake people are fantastic, right? And it's like, we're trying to build a culture to where it's like you can come to work and it's not like trying to drag you in, right? Like we want to create that like positive, fun.
And I think you guys have done that really well.
And we're happy about that. Like we're really blessed that the Lord's worked it out for us in that regard. We still have like sticks, right? We have like that, like, hey, if you don't produce enough, you know, like, hey, your renewal commission goes down. And like, we still have all those boundaries that say, look, we want to be gracious and loving, but like, don't take advantage of it, which I think is fair.
Absolutely.
You know?
If not, the business would
go down. Flounder. Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. What would you say to people that are thinking about insurance or maybe sleeping on it? Like, what's your message to them if they don't know anything about it?
Yeah. I mean, if anything, it's a great opportunity to see if you're cut out for sales. I like we touched on, I think you'll know within the first year whether or not you're cut out for it. And I think cut out for sales in general. And then, from the insurance perspective, there's just so many positives in the industry. And it's sad because insurance by a lot of people is looked at as a scam in some scenarios a lot of the time. And so it's trying to like get them to have a different perspective, different view on insurance. And it's not as bad as it seems. It's really in your benefit. And so being a producer and being able to convey that to the clients is really rewarding. And I would say for a new producer, it's the possibilities, especially here at Greyhawk, like the possibilities are endless and the ceiling is not existent. And so to be a young producer, you just kind of have to put your head down and grind. It is a grind early on for sure.
No way around it.
No, there's not. And so I wouldn't say it gets easier because of the work you've put in, the knowledge that you have, and the clientele that can support you with referrals. And that's, I would say, the biggest platform to move you or project you forward.
Of course,
is the clients that you are servicing in the beginning. They will really help you out in the end.
Of course,
throughout your entire career.
I think I've told you guys too. The thing that made me successful early on is that I was like, who else can I help?
Yep.
As soon as that paperwork was signed, check. Yep. Who else can I call? Yep. I was adamant about that conversation at the end.
Totally.
That propelled me so far. Right. So to your point, you're completely correct. Yeah. I mean, imagine selling a product that everyone needs.
Yep. It's pretty easy.
It's pretty easy. So to your point, when you were like, hey, if you can't sell insurance, like you're not cut out for sales, it's probably a very true statement. I haven't actually thought about it like that. Like you need it.
Yeah.
So if you can't make someone buy something that they need,
maybe try something else.
Yeah. It's going to be completely different. Not sales related. So as far as, we always have this conversation of like, how are we growing? And it's a big part of it. You obviously saw yourself as like, hey, I want to start an office.
Yep.
Your development path for that. How do you see that playing out in the next 10 years? Do you feel like I'm going to get my book to this size and then like, all right, we're going to do an office? That's your long-term vision for
absolutely.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's what we'd wanted as owners. We kind of glossed by it earlier, but it just hit me that like, that's really cool.
No. And
that's
I don't think we've talked about that, but I mean, that's a goal that you had set when I first started. You're like, hey, there's ownership opportunities here. And so, just talking with Danielle, I think that would be a dream come true for sure.
I love it.
Yeah.
I think that's really great. Well, Jess, dude, thank you for coming on.
Yeah.
Like, it was a great time. I know obviously like you're paid to be here, but like at the same time, you're not, right? We're just super grateful for you and we're really excited about the long term and, just blessed to have you here, man.
To be part of the team, man. That's
Everyone,
awesome.
If you have any questions, let us know. Jesse has been talking to other prospective people. Like he would love to answer your questions. All of our information will be in the bio. And if you're interested in joining Greyhawk, let us know. Thanks, y'all. See you soon.
Thank you.
Bye.